Hello everyone, myself Sowmya, Assistant Professor in CSE AIML Department, MLR Institute of Technology. In this video, we are going to discuss about Flask basics and how to install a Flask. So coming to the overview of this presentation, this presentation will cover what is Flask, what is a web framework, what is WSGI, what is Jinja 2, so what are the prerequisites before going to the Flask, and we will also see the Flask installation steps. So first of all, what is Flask? So Flask is actually a web framework that provides libraries to build a lightweight web application. So it is actually a web framework. So in the previous videos, we have discussed about framework. So in the second chapter, AngularJS is also a framework. So what is a framework? What it will provide? So framework is nothing but it will provide a set of libraries. Using those libraries, we can make our process simple. So what is our process here? To develop a web application. So here Flask is also a web framework which will provide some predefined libraries which will make our process to develop a website or web page it will make our work simple. So by providing the libraries. So it is developed by Armin Ronacher, right? So here it is based on, the Flask is based on WSGI toolkit and Jinja 2 template engine. So what is this WSGI and what is Jinja 2? We will see. And it is Flask is also, it's a module of Python. So we are not installing any special software for Flask here. It is a module in Python. Just to including that Python module, we can do our work simple. So what is a web framework? So web framework is nothing but it is a simply web framework represents collection of libraries and modules, so that enables a web application developer to write applications without having to bother about low level details such as protocols. That means we can directly use the library files or predefined functions without writing the code again and again. So framework is nothing but it will provide a set of libraries or modules which will make our process simple. So what is this WSGI? So we discussed that Flask web framework, it is related or it depends on WSGI and Jinja 2 template engine. So what is this WSGI and what is this Jinja 2? We will discuss now. So WSGI, it is an acronym for Web Server Gateway Interface. So actually, which is a standard for Python web application development. So this WSGI, this Flask is actually a WSGI. That means it works as an interface in between the front end as well as a back end. So this is a interface here. We have back end here and we have also front end. So front end we discussed as some HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So in our syllabus back end we have PHP, but of course we have Python, we have Java, we have servlets, JSP. So all those we can use them as backend. So this interface, this Flask module, this works as an interface between the front end and the back end. So it will connect the front end and back end. So that represents WSGI. And coming to the Jinja 2. So Jinja 2 is a web template engine which combines a template with a certain data source to render the dynamic web pages. So here the backend will generate the output. So that output will be displayed in the front end again. So we know front end is HTML actually. So this backend, it may generate the output as a normal text or it may generate the output in the HTML page. So it needs to place that HTML content in the output page, that is the front end page. So to place that content in the HTML template, we are using this Jinja 2 template engine. So what this Jinja 2 will do, it will take the content from this backend and it will place that content in the HTML template and then it will be sent to the front end. So that process will be done by this Jinja 2 template engine. So coming to the prerequisite to learn this Flask is first of all HTML and then Python. So why Python? In the sense it's a module of Python. So Flask itself is a module of Python. So coming to the installation. So we already discussed that Flask is a module of Python. So to use this Flask module, you have to install the Python first in your system. So Python 2.7 or higher version should be installed in your system. And along with that, you should also install this Flask virtually. So at the time of installation with the package module of Python, we don't get this Flask. We have to install this manually. So virtually. So we should install this Flask in a virtual environment. So to install this Flask, first we need to create a virtual environment. So before going to that virtual environment, so first you have to install Python 2.7 or above version in your system. And after installing the Python, you have to use all these commands to virtually create a virtual environment, and in that virtual environment, we are going to install the Flask. So first you need to create a directory using mkdir make directory. So the directory name is new, and I'm shifting to this new directory. After changing into this new directory, I'm just creating a virtual environment using this syntax py python -m venv virtual environment. The virtual environment name is env here. So here instead of env, you can use any other name also. With that name, a virtual environment folder will be created. So where this env folder will be created, it will be created inside the new folder. So now after this env is created, so inside env, so a set of documents or set of libraries, set of folders will be created. So in that folder, so one of the folder is script. So first we have to activate the script to install the Flask. So every time you have to activate this script. After activating this, we have to install the Flask using this command pip pip install Flask. So whenever you write this command, the libraries and the modules related to Flask will be installed. And after that, you can store your application. I mean, you can write your application, Flask applications, and you should save your Flask application with the extension .py. And those applications we can save in our folder called new folder. After writing the application, in this way you can execute your Flask application. Set Flask app is equal to our application name, that is app.py. I'm assigning this, and after the how to run this application using this command Flask run. So this will run this app.py application. At that time, after running the application, it will not directly give the output. It will give the IP address. So using that IP address, you can get the output. So we'll try to follow all these steps. So before installing Flask, you have to install Python in your system. So first I'm checking in my system already I have a Python with the version 3.10, so that I can directly install the Flask. So I'm just going to command prompt. Right. So now inside MLR IT, I'm just creating a new folder. So change this directory to new folder. Now I need to set the environment. So py -m venv, and the environment folder name is env here. So now I need to activate the scripts. After this, you can install pip install Flask. So it will install all the dependencies and frameworks related to Flask. Right. So now installation is over. Now you can go to C drive, users, MLR IT. See, we have created a folder called new. Right. This is our folder new. If I open it, see, env folder is created. Within the env, we can find out scripts, libraries include. This scripts, we have to execute this activate file. So every time whenever you want to execute your Flask application, whenever you open your command prompt, then you have to activate this. So now I need to write my Flask application so that I can execute that application. So in this way, we can install the Flask in the virtual environment, and using these two commands, we can execute our Flask application. So that's all about this video. So in this video or in this PPT, we have discussed about what is Flask, what is a web framework, what is WSGI, what is Jinja 2, and how to install the Flask. After installing Python, what are the steps we need to follow? All these steps we have discussed. Thank you.